Today's story comes from the relationship subreddit and was posted by deleted user and was titled, "My 28 male, close friend 28 male, had a vasectomy and is keeping it a secret from his wife, 27 female, who is also a close friend. What do I do? This will be long. I apologize. I have known my friend, Kevin, and his wife, Emily, since high school, and we have stayed very close. The three of us went to different colleges, but they were all within an hour's drive of each other, and we spent a lot of time together. They got together towards the end of our first year and got married soon after graduation. They had been married around 6 years, together around 9. After graduating, we all moved back to the metro area where we grew up, although we live about 45 minutes apart. Still, my wife and I spent a lot of time with them. She and Emily have grown to be very good friends and often hang out together without the husbands. Kevin and I also spend quite a bit of time together without the wives, as I was always closer to him than Emily anyway. Before getting married, Kevin and Emily had some early disagreements about children. Emily was very set on having children, and Kevin wasn't sure that he wanted any. Kevin eventually acquiesced and said he would think about it, and they didn't really discuss it again until after they got married. Around 5 years ago, Emily gradually started bringing up the fact that she was ready to start trying to get pregnant. Kevin was adamantly against having children at that point and told her he wanted to wait until he was at a more stable point in his career. He was still at his first post-college job, and while he was making good money for someone his age, the job he was in generally isn't long-term. Think of a field like consulting, where junior-level employees typically have a 2 to 4 year shelf life before they're expected to move on to something else. He told her that he wanted to wait a few years, as the expectation was that she would probably stay at home for a year or two after having the baby. During this ongoing discussion, Kevin confided in me that while the career explanation was true, it wasn't the whole truth. He was still unsure that he actually wanted to have kids at all and wanted to put it off until he was sure that he really wanted to. He knew it was unfair to Emily not to disclose his feelings on this, but he was worried about her reaction, given how adamant she was about having children. After much discussion, Emily agreed to wait until Kevin had a more permanent job. Around 2.5 years ago, that happened. He took a job in-house with one of his long-term clients and ended up with a small pay jump, much better benefits, a more predictable schedule with less travel, and a lot more job security. Almost immediately after he took the new job, Emily brought up getting pregnant, and Kevin agreed to start trying. As far as I knew at the time, Kevin agreed, and Emily stopped taking birth control. Flash forward to the present, no children yet. Up until this point, as I understand it anyway, their only attempts at conceiving have been to continue their normal activities without birth control. Since this hasn't worked, Emily has started discussing the possibility of going to a fertility doctor to see if there are any problems. The women on her mother's side of the family, her mother, grandmother, an aunt, and a cousin, have a history of having problems conceiving, although with eventual success. I'm not sure what the exact issues are, but I know that Emily's grandmother and mother were 29 before they were able to conceive, with both trying since their early 20s. Yesterday, Kevin confided in me that before he left his previous job, he had a vasectomy without telling Emily. After picking my jaw up off the floor, I started asking him questions to figure out why the hell he would do that. Apparently, after he began to put out feelers for a new job, a process that took about a year, Emily had brought up going ahead and getting pregnant. Kevin pushed back pretty hard to wait, and she told him that was fine. Evidently, Kevin was really leaning towards not wanting children. I wasn't aware of this, since we never really talked about it after the aforementioned conversation. After he got the new job and they started trying to conceive, I just figured he'd changed his mind and got on board. Shortly after they once again agreed to wait, Kevin became suspicious that Emily wasn't taking her birth control. He would check her pill packs, but wasn't able to confirm one way or another if she was taking them regularly or not. According to him, Emily was acting suspiciously, not sure what the specifics were, and was initiating sex much more often than usual. There was something about her periods as well, but I don't remember the reasoning behind that discussion. Evidently, after considering the evidence available to him, he was convinced that she had stopped taking her birth control and was trying to get pregnant after they had agreed to wait. He was angry, but didn't want to confront her with evidence that could be explained away easily by her. At this point, I don't know if she was actually taking her birth control or not. He could have been right, or just paranoid. Given his lack of trust of Emily and his increasing desire not to have children, he decided to get a vasectomy and not tell her. There was a point where he was traveling for his job, which happened often, and was going to be a few states away for about a week and a half. He traveled to this city frequently and was somehow able to arrange to get a vasectomy done in that time. The initial trip was supposed to be 10 days, but a weekend snowstorm caused his flight to be canceled, and his employer ended up needing him to stay another few days anyway. Again, I have no idea how he was able to arrange visits to a urologist and a vasectomy, not to mention the follow-up visits. I'm also unclear on how long it took him to do this. The timing worked out to where the soreness and swelling was gone by the time he returned from the trip, and, according to him, the scar is completely unnoticeable unless you shine a flashlight on the bottom of his balls and look closely. So in the past 3-ish years, she has never suspected anything, I guess. He always had his insurance information sent to his office, had enough spare cash socked away to cover his copay and antibiotics or pain medication. And he changed insurance when he took his new job, so there aren't any records lying around or in an online account. So that was all well and good for a few years, but now he is in a tight spot because if Emily goes to the fertility doctor and things check out on her end, the next logical step is for him to get tested, at which point it will be obvious to the doctor that he had a vasectomy. Or at least he thinks this. I don't know whether that's true or if the test would just show him shooting blanks. He gambled on the fact that Emily's family has a history of problems conceiving, so maybe there will be issues there to place the blame on. He has no idea what to do, but guesses that he can stretch this out a year or two before he has to go get tested. I'm really struggling with this. On the one hand, Kevin is my best friend. On the other, he is being totally deceitful to Emily, one of my closest friends. I'm not judging him for not wanting kids, but this is something he should have communicated to her before now. If he had talked to me about the situation before he got the vasectomy, I would have told him that he needed to break things off with her and move on if he was sure he didn't want kids. It wouldn't be fair to her. It wouldn't be fair to him if they ended up having children by accident or design when he didn't want to. But that's not what happened. He's been lying to her for years. I can't tell my wife about this because I have no doubt she will call Emily and tell her immediately. I'm trying to decide whether I should tell Emily, tell Kevin that he has to tell Emily, or I will, or completely stay out of the situation. I feel bad about the entire situation, and I don't want to break up their marriage or destroy one or more friendships. But I also don't want Emily to waste any more of her time when having kids is such a big deal to her. What the hell do I do? Edit 1. Thanks for the advice, everyone. I think I have decided on a course of action. I'm meeting up with Kevin for drinks in an hour or so. I'm going to give him an ultimatum. Either he tells Emily within 3 days, or I will. I'm also going to tell my wife after my meeting with Kevin because I can't keep something like this from her and live with myself. I will try to get her to sit on the information as long as possible. But if she tells Emily, then I can't fault her for doing what is probably the right thing. I'm going to tell Kevin that I'm telling my wife as soon as I get home from meeting with him and impress upon him the strong possibility that she will tell Emily before he has a chance. This will give him an incentive to tell her sooner rather than later. I will probably ask my wife to let me be there when she tells Emily if she decides that she won't wait. That way we can both be there for support, and I might have a chance of staying friends with her after this is all over. I will post an update at some point after the shit hits the fan. Thanks again, everyone. Edit 2. Just left for talking with Kevin. I took the exact approach outlined in my first edit, and it went as well as one could hope. He was understanding and apologized for putting me in this situation. He understood my need to tell my wife and said that he wished he had taken that approach in his own marriage. He realizes he needs to tell Emily and that the marriage is likely over. After some reflection, he thinks this is probably for the best because she will never trust him again and he really doesn't want kids. He's going to sit down and talk with her tomorrow afternoon. Edit 2.5. Just finished talking with my wife. Holy fuck, I'll have one hell of an update soon. I don't have time to write it out right now because I need to go to sleep. I'm pretty drained from all of this. I'll update this sometime tomorrow. I'll either edit this thread or post a new one if it takes me longer to write. Stay tuned. If you like drama, just fucking wait. Fucking fuck. Fuck. Edit 3. So, a lot has happened since last night. Holy hell. First off, Emily isn't pregnant, as far as anyone knows. So sorry if you were hoping for that. I'll try to write what happened chronologically so it makes more sense. Here we go. So I told my wife everything last night after I got home from meeting with Kevin. As you might expect, she was absolutely floored that he would do this to her, given how much she wants kids. She didn't take it as badly as I thought she would, though, which was weird at the time. I really thought her reaction was going to be to say that we need to tell Emily immediately, drive over to their house in a blinding rage, etc. Instead, she told me that she had something to tell me that she had been keeping a secret for a long while. Evidently, a little over a year ago, Emily and my wife were discussing Kevin and Emily's attempts at conceiving. It wasn't unusual for them to talk about this, since at that point, they had been trying for over a year. On this night, though, Emily had quite a bit to drink and opened up to my wife more than usual. Emily was desperate to start going to the fertility doctor, but Kevin wanted to wait because they hadn't been trying for very long. Unless I misunderstood him, Kevin seemed to imply that Emily had only recently started suggesting going to a fertility doctor. Nope, she has been telling him she wanted to go for over a year. My wife asked her why she wanted to go so soon, since they hadn't been trying that long. Emily told her that SHE had been trying for nearly 4 years. What the fuck? The following explanation of this is pieced together from my conversation with my wife, what Kevin told me, and my own inferences. I've tried as best I can to make the pieces fit together in a way that makes sense. I'll update and edit if I find out that any of the details aren't correct. Emily stopped taking her birth control while Kevin was still at his old job before he ever started looking for a new one. She pretended to take her pills, hoping she would get pregnant, and she could blame it on the fact that birth control isn't 100% effective. My wife was absolutely floored by the revelation and does not condone her behavior, but continued listening to try and support her friend through what has been a really difficult experience. She stopped taking her pills around 6 months before Kevin started looking for a job. This is the same time at which she started pressuring Kevin to move on from that job. I guess it took 6 months to convince him to finally start the process. So Kevin agrees that it's time to leave his job, starts talking with headhunters, gently approaching his current clients, etc. They have the above-mentioned talk about going ahead and trying to conceive. Kevin says no, she agrees to wait. The reason she brought it up on that particular day is that she thought she might already be pregnant, given that her period was late and she had been trying for 6 months. A couple days later, Emily got a pack of pregnancy tests, and 3 positive results later, she's pregnant. She's excited as hell, but wants to wait a bit to tell Kevin, given that they had just agreed to wait to have kids until he got a new job. Fuck. My wife thinks Emily was probably around 2 to 3 weeks along at this point. About a week and a half later, Kevin is out of state for work, and Emily is planning to spring the news on him when he gets back. He is gone from Sunday night and is supposed to return late on Friday. On Monday night, Emily has a miscarriage. Evidently, this is one of the common mishaps that the women in her family are prone to. My wife told me that Emily's mother had at least 3 miscarriages before successfully carrying her first pregnancy to term. Emily is absolutely devastated. She doesn't tell Kevin about it, because then he'll realize that she hasn't been taking her birth control, and shit will hit the fan. She calls my wife, who goes over to her house to comfort her. My wife does not know about the miscarriage at this point, just that Emily was really upset over something. Emily only told her the truth a year ago. I actually think I remember what night this happened on because it was unusual for my wife to drive all the way to Kevin and Emily's house to hang out with her. Usually they met somewhere in the middle. So Emily is obviously upset about this, but manages to get herself together by the time Kevin gets back. She doesn't say anything about it, but immediately starts trying to conceive again. My guess is that this would be the time where Kevin becomes suspicious about her behavior. He was right that she wasn't taking her birth control, but he only realized it after she had a miscarriage and tried even harder to get pregnant again. As far as anyone knows, Emily never got pregnant again between this time and when Kevin had the vasectomy. During a routine visit, Emily asked her obstetrician-gynecologist if there were any problems and told her about the miscarriage. This happened before Kevin started his new job, and they officially agreed to start trying to conceive. I don't know if Emily told her, or him, I don't know, that she had stopped taking her birth control, or if she implied that it was accidental. The obstetrician-gynecologist identified something with her uterus that could possibly cause an issue, but said she couldn't be sure from a routine exam. She suggested that Emily see a fertility specialist and gave her a referral. Evidently, the specialist wanted to do the first consultation with both Kevin and Emily there, so Emily couldn't start that process until Kevin was on board with conceiving. So that's the state of things. Emily was lying to Kevin about being on birth control for at least 1.5 years. My wife never told me because she wasn't sure what to do. Since they had officially started trying to have children by the time Emily told her about all this, my wife decided to keep the information to herself because it didn't matter at that point anyway. I called Kevin and told him about this late last night. He wasn't as upset as I thought he would be because he already figured that Emily had stopped taking her birth control back then, although it was actually 6 months before he caught on. He was pretty upset about the miscarriage and felt really bad that Emily had to keep this to herself for all these years. As of right now, he hasn't talked to her yet. That will happen later this afternoon or tonight. Fuck. I may post an update after he talks to her tonight. In all likelihood, though, I'll wait a week or so and post an update after all this has died down, and hopefully they have decided what they're going to do. Update 2 days later. Well, Reddit, the situation has resolved itself. Kevin and Emily talked for a long time yesterday, and they've agreed that it's best for them to split up. Too much damage done, and the lies they told each other were too big. Not to mention the kids issue. I wasn't there obviously, but I've talked to them both, and they seem better than I expected. Both of them are really angry, but as much as directed at themselves as each other. Strangely enough, they were both really glad for my involvement. Emily wasn't even pissed at my wife for telling me about the birth control fiasco. I have no idea whether my wife and I will be able to remain friends with either of them. They were both really deceitful to each other and to us, but I think I'm willing to move past that eventually. We'll see how this goes. Thanks to everyone who commented. I don't think I would have approached this situation correctly were it not for some of the responses I got here. The second story is from Two Hot Takes subreddit. It was posted by Rooster2041 and was titled, My Female 27, Husband, Male 30, Let Mother-in-Law Use a Shared Strainer to Sift Flour, and I'm Highly Allergic. Advice on how to handle situation. I have celiac disease, so I cannot have gluten, wheat, which is flour. I am particularly sensitive, and cross-contamination can also cause a reaction. My husband and I do have a shared kitchen. He will sometimes have snacks that contain gluten or food, such as pizza or chicken nuggets that are made with gluten-containing flour. However, we do use separate utensils, meaning he has his own flour sifter for gluten-containing flour, his own pots for gluten-containing noodles, his own shelf in the pantry for gluten-containing snacks, and his own plates and bowls for food that contains gluten. The rest of the kitchen we share, as those are used with things that do not contain gluten. My husband invited his mother over to watch the World Cup game and said they would make pizza. I had no problems with this. I had made my own pizza the previous night and had leftovers. When his mother arrived, they went to the kitchen and began making the pizza. I was in the living room with our niece watching a movie. I could hear them talking, and my husband asked her to begin sifting the flour. He explained that it could be slightly hard if you fill it too much as it is a little older. She asked where the electric one she got us was. He explained that we don't put gluten in that one because his wife uses it for her flour. My mother-in-law then asked where the strainer was so she could use it as it would be faster. It was then quiet. I walked in to get more water and saw them using the strainer that is not supposed to have gluten in it. They then proceeded to get cheese and pepperoni out of the bags without washing their hands first, meaning they touched gluten and flour, then put their hands into bags of ingredients that are shared between us. So I will no longer be able to use these ingredients. I now have to go buy a new strainer, cheese, and pepperoni for myself. He saw I was upset and apologized. I'm not sure he would have apologized if I wasn't visibly upset. My kitchen is the one place in the world where I am able to feel completely safe. I don't have to worry about getting sick because we have what I guess you could call procedures in place. This has made me feel unsafe in the one place in the world where I'm supposed to feel safe. I have explained and educated my husband on my disease, and this is why we do things the way we do in our kitchen. He has even gone as far as to suggest things that I haven't thought of to make the kitchen safer for me. Because my husband already has the knowledge of my disease and is very aware of what to do and not do in our kitchen, it feels like he was just doing things to please his mother, even if it meant inconveniencing me. Any advice on how to handle this or talk to my husband about this without making it seem like I'm overreacting? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, "Firstly, that really sucks. Did you say he has his own sifter for gluten flour? I don't understand why they couldn't have used that one. It's not like they didn't have another viable option. And the lack of washing hands before toppings just really sucks, especially if you've explained to your husband how celiac and cross-contamination work. In my opinion, you're already giving him a lot of grace to even make a gluten pizza in your kitchen. I don't even allow my roommates or family to use gluten flour in our shared kitchen because the particles can get everywhere. I think you just need to be honest with him and say what you said here, that now you feel unsafe in the one place you felt safe, and that he was more concerned about inconveniencing his mother than you. By the way, what he's really doing is risking your health, not just inconveniencing you. It's hard not to wonder when else he broke rules. All this to say, Opie, you have shown him a great deal of patience, so please don't worry about overreacting. This was a crappy thing for them to have done, and I think you should be taking more precautions for you regardless. But of course, whatever your agreed-upon boundaries are is great if it works for you. It just shows a lack of true commitment or understanding of your medical needs, and you have every right to call him out on that. Edit. Did they use the electric sifter that you heard him tell her couldn't be used for gluten flour? If so, that's also just kind of crazy that she had been told no and why and simply didn't care about your health. Hope replied, yes, they were originally using his own sifter, but it takes longer since it's older and can't be filled up all the way. But they did not use the electric one because he did say no and explained why, which is why I'm having such a hard time understanding why he couldn't have done the same thing with the strainer and continued to use his own sifter. Commenter 2 says, your husband should replace everything for you. My question is, would he have even told you what was cross-contaminated had you not been in the other room and heard everything? Commenter 3 says, the contaminated food should be thrown out. Too risky. And his mom probably shouldn't be cooking in their kitchen at all anymore. And they need to assess kitchen safety if she house sits or has a key to their place and see if other options need to be considered. Update next day. Thanks everyone for the comments, thoughts, and advice on my recent post. I wanted to address some comments that I did see. Celiac is a severe disease, but it is different for everyone that has it. What works for one person may not work for another. The procedures we have put in place in our kitchen have worked for me my entire life. The procedures that worked for me growing up in my household, I brought with me as I transferred into adulthood, and they have continued to work. My husband has always been willing to learn about my disease and what he can do to help and how to handle food. He's advocated for me and supported me time and time again. Celiac has a lot of nuances that can be hard to learn unless you're living it. But he has put in the work to make me feel safe. To clear some things up, I do need to replace the strainer. This is part of the nuance of my disease that not everyone understands. Yes, it was a shared strainer, but in the sense that we both used it for things that did not contain gluten. Anything that is shared in our kitchen doesn't have gluten in it. My celiac reactions, I do get pretty sick when I get gluten. I get incredibly bad stomach pains, many bathroom runs, headaches, brain fog, etc. My husband has seen this and is aware. He knows this is a real disease and has never made me feel like it wasn't. He is actually more cautious than me sometimes because he doesn't want me to go through that pain and put my health at risk. The cheese and pepperoni. He clarified that while he did wash his hands after touching gluten and before touching these shared items, he was unsure if his mother did. Therefore, he told me not to use these items because he wasn't sure if there was any cross-contamination and would rather be safe than sorry. We will be getting new ingredients. We did talk. I told him how this incident made me feel, and it was a hard conversation. He explained his thought process. He said that when my mother-in-law asked for the strainer, he did hesitate because he knew that we would no longer be able to use it and would need a new one. He thought that the strainer is relatively easy to replace, though, and since my health and gluten safety are important to him, he didn't want to be met with opposition from his mother in that moment. As if she would have met him with pushback about some type of gluten safety, it would have upset him and caused a bigger argument. I explained I wasn't upset about replacing the strainer or ingredients. Ultimately, it had everything to do with educating his family about that nuance of my disease, as this concept of cross-contamination transfers to other situations such as holidays or family gatherings. He said he understood how I felt and why I felt that way. After more conversation, we ended up on the same page. We will be educating his family going forward when situations arise and our boundaries in our kitchen are strict. We won't be bending those boundaries for anyone, and he will be replacing all items. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, if your mother-in-law wants to cook, it's only in her own kitchen. But glad your spouse recognized that he was going to have to replace everything. Commenter 2 says, it seems the bigger issue is why husband felt he couldn't tell his mother no about something that was critical to his wife's health. I would be surprised if this wasn't a pattern in other areas. Commenter 3 says, your mother-in-law needs to be banned from your kitchen. Period. Educating her won't help because she doesn't care. No more kitchen access.